Emma believed she had found her forever love with a charming man who seemed too good to be true. But beneath his magnetic smile hid a monster capable of unthinkable cruelty. When Emma went missing after a night out, no one could have imagined the horrifying truth. Her boyfriend had not only taken her life, but had continued living as if nothing happened, even hooking up with someone else mere feet from her lifeless body. This is the chilling story of betrayal, brutality, and a crime so grotesque it shocked an entire community. Emma was the kind of person who could light up any room she walked into. Her infectious laughter and warm personality drew people to her effortlessly, making her the heart of her social circle. She had dreams of becoming a designer, and her sketches filled every corner of her cozy apartment. When she met Liam, a charming bartender with piercing blue eyes and an adventurous spirit, it seemed like the perfect match. He had a way of making her feel special, showering her with attention and promising her the world. At first, their relationship was a whirlwind romance, filled with late-night drives, impromptu getaways, and stolen kisses that made her feel alive. Emma's friends, however, weren't as enchanted. They noticed things Emma chose to ignore, like the way Liam subtly isolated her from her loved ones, or how his compliments often came with a backhanded sting. "You'd look amazing if you lost a little weight," he once said, smiling as if it were a joke. Little moments like these added up, but Emma brushed them off, believing Liam's love was intense, not toxic. As the months passed, Liam's darker tendencies began to surface. His jealousy was no longer confined to subtle remarks, but had grown into heated arguments over the smallest interactions Emma had with other men. She stopped wearing certain outfits he didn't approve of, stopped meeting friends he didn't like, and spent more time trying to appease him than living her own life. Her friends begged her to leave him, but Emma insisted that Liam loved her deeply and that his insecurities stemmed from being hurt in the past. "He's just scared of losing me," she'd say with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The night that changed everything began like any other. Emma had planned to go out with friends, eager for a rare evening of fun away from Liam's controlling gaze. But Liam insisted on coming along, unable to bear the thought of her enjoying herself without him. At the bar, his mood soured quickly when he saw Emma chatting with an old acquaintance. The tension escalated into a public argument, with Liam gripping her wrist tightly as they stood outside in the cold night air. Emma pulled away, tears streaming down her face, and told him she needed space. Those were the last words anyone would ever hear her say. The night air was heavy with tension as Emma stormed away from Liam, her heels clicking sharply against the pavement. She wiped at her tears, trying to steady her breath, her heart pounding not just from the argument, but from an overwhelming sense of dread she couldn't shake. Her phone buzzed in her purse, but she ignored it, knowing it was likely Liam calling to apologize or demand she come back. She needed to clear her head, to find some peace away from his suffocating presence. Emma decided to walk a few blocks to calm down before heading home, but as the streets grew quieter, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. Meanwhile, Liam's fury boiled over. Back inside the bar, he downed another drink, his mind racing with thoughts of betrayal. In his twisted perspective, Emma had humiliated him by walking away. To him, her insistence on independence wasn't strength. It was defiance, a threat to his control. He left the bar in a haze of anger, determined to confront her. He told himself it was just a talk, to make things right. But deep down, something darker was stirring. Emma's absence the next morning was noticed immediately by her best friend, Megan, who had received several messages from her the previous night detailing the fight. The texts abruptly stopped just after midnight, and Emma hadn't responded since. At first, Megan tried to rationalize it. Maybe Emma needed some time alone. But as the hours ticked by, worry set in. Emma was the type to check in, even if things weren't going well. Megan called Liam, who answered with a tone of irritation, claiming Emma had stormed off and he hadn't seen her since. His nonchalance only deepened Megan's concern. By evening, Emma's friends and family were frantic. Calls to her phone went straight to voicemail, and her social media remained eerily silent. Megan decided to file a missing person report, even as Liam scoffed at the idea, insisting Emma would turn up soon. The police took the report seriously, especially after Megan shared the details of their argument and Liam's volatile behavior. But even as the investigation began, no one could have imagined the horrifying discovery that awaited them, a discovery that would turn their worst fears into a living nightmare. The following days were a whirlwind of growing panic and unanswered questions. Emma's friends and family plastered her photo on every street corner, pleading for information. The police scoured the area, retracing her last known steps, but the trail seemed to vanish into the cold night air. Liam, ever the actor, played his role perfectly. He appeared at the searches and press conferences, his face a mask of concern. To anyone looking closely, though, there was something unsettling about his demeanor. His tears seemed forced, his answers rehearsed. When questioned by police, his timeline of events felt hollow, as though he were trying too hard to appear cooperative. Everything changed when Emma's neighbor reported a foul smell coming from her apartment. At first, they assumed it was a plumbing issue, but the odor grew more intense, seeping into the hallway. Concerned, the landlord entered the apartment, only to stumble upon a scene so horrific it left him trembling. Emma's body lay on the bed, partially covered with blankets, her lifeless eyes staring at the ceiling. Bruises marked her neck, telling the story of her final moments. The room felt frozen in time, a chilling reminder of her violent end. As investigators descended on the scene, the details grew even more disturbing. Emma's body showed signs of being there for days, untouched, while life continued around her. Liam had not only left her there, but had carried on as if nothing had happened. Receipts and messages uncovered in his phone revealed that in the days following her death, Liam had gone out drinking, ordered takeout, and even brought another woman back to the apartment. The idea that he could engage in such callous behavior with Emma's lifeless body mere feet away was almost too horrifying to comprehend. Forensic evidence quickly tied Liam to the crime. Fibers from the blanket, traces of his DNA, and security footage of him returning to the apartment that night were undeniable. As the police pieced together the timeline, they realized this wasn't a case of a panicked crime of passion. It was the calculated act of someone who viewed Emma as a possession, not a person. The discovery of her body shattered the community, but it was only the beginning. The true depths of Liam's depravity were about to come to light, and the world would soon learn just how twisted he truly was. The arrest of Liam sent shockwaves through the community, but the revelations that followed were even more chilling. As investigators dug deeper into his actions, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. The night Emma died, Liam hadn't panicked or fled the scene. Instead, he methodically cleaned up, carefully crafting an alibi that he believed would shield him from suspicion. He had even taken the time to text Emma's friends from her phone, sending vague messages to delay their concern. It was a calculated effort to buy himself time, and it worked, until the discovery of her body unraveled his plan. In custody, Liam's demeanor was unnerving. He was eerily calm, even as detectives laid out the mountain of evidence against him. He claimed Emma's death was an accident, the result of a heated argument that spiraled out of control. But his story didn't hold up under scrutiny. Autopsy results revealed that Emma's injuries were consistent with prolonged strangulation, suggesting a deliberate act rather than a momentary lapse. Furthermore, Liam's behavior in the aftermath spoke volumes. His decision to remain in the apartment, even bringing another woman into the space, was a chilling display of his disregard for Emma's life. The woman he had brought home provided a crucial piece of evidence. She described how Liam had been oddly detached during their encounter, avoiding certain areas of the apartment and keeping the bedroom door closed. When she asked about the smell, he brushed it off, claiming it was a plumbing issue. Her testimony painted a harrowing picture of a man who could compartmentalize his actions so completely that he could pursue pleasure while his girlfriend's lifeless body lay just feet away. The trial was fast approaching, and prosecutors were determined to ensure Liam faced the full weight of justice. The prosecution's case centered on his controlling behavior, using text messages, witness statements, and forensic evidence to paint a picture of a man who viewed Emma as his property. The defense tried to argue that his actions were those of a man in shock, but the jury wasn't buying it. The damning evidence, combined with Liam's chilling lack of remorse, made it clear that this was no accident. As the courtroom prepared for what promised to be an emotionally charged trial, Emma's loved ones braced themselves for the gruesome details of her final moments to be laid bare. The courtroom was silent as the prosecutor began outlining the case against Liam, each word slicing through the air like a knife. Emma's family sat in the front row, clutching each other for support as graphic details of her murder were laid bare. The jury listened intently as the prosecution presented their evidence: the bruises around Emma's neck, the chilling timeline of Liam's actions after her death, and the callousness with which he tried to cover his tracks. They described a man so consumed by his need for control that he saw Emma not as a partner, but as something he could dominate and ultimately destroy. Liam's defense faltered under the weight of the evidence. His claims of an accidental death unraveled as the autopsy report made it clear Emma's death was no accident. Witnesses testified about his manipulative and controlling behavior, painting a picture of a man who grew more dangerous as his control over Emma slipped away. The woman he had brought home after Emma's death provided damning testimony, describing how Liam had acted as though nothing was wrong, even as the odor of decay filled the apartment. Her words left the courtroom stunned, a chilling reminder of his complete lack of remorse. The prosecution's closing arguments were devastating. They spoke of Emma's bright future, stolen from her by a man who claimed to love her. They detailed the horror of her final moments, the betrayal she must have felt at the hands of someone she trusted. The jury was asked to imagine the cold-heartedness required to not only take a life, but to carry on as if nothing had happened, bringing another woman into the home as if Emma's death was nothing more than an inconvenience. After hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a unanimous verdict: guilty. The courtroom erupted in muted sobs from Emma's family as the judge delivered a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Liam's expression remained blank, as though he were incapable of grasping the gravity of his actions. As Emma's family left the courthouse, they carried with them a mix of grief and relief. Justice had been served, but it would never bring Emma back. Her death became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of hidden monsters who wear the mask of love. For those who knew her, Emma's light would never truly fade, but the shadow of Liam's cruelty would forever linger as a chilling reminder of the darkness some people carry within.